right, welcome to the Hemp Connoisseur Radio. You've just been listening to Eastern by Varlet. Varlet is one of the bands that we're very excited about playing at our Cirque de Cannabis event a week from tomorrow, Friday, October 5th. Obviously, we always do some shameless self-promotion here at the Hemp Connoisseur Radio, and so I am promoting the Cirque de Cannabis event. We are doing awards announcements for the Hemp Connoisseur Championship, the largest Patient's Choice Championship that Colorado has seen. We have bands such as Varlet, and you'll be hearing their music all day, and we'll be talking with a couple of the members of the band in just a second. Also, we have great bands like Demon Funkies, Dragon Deer, and Cobra Conda. So we'll be speaking with Cobra Conda next week. As you guys know, we spoke with Demon Funkies last week. So let me give you a little bit of an intro on who Varlet is.
Hey, Dave, how are you?
I'm good, Jason. I'm so sorry. How rude of me for not, as always, I got my partner in crime, Jason Robillard, here with me. So to talk a little bit about Varlet. Varlet was minted together by psychedelic, folk, rock, and doo-wop influences. Varlet is an indie genre bending sonic dream layered over earthy driving drums. I love that
10
line.
times.
I know, right? On Varlet's November 2011 release, The Drifter, Lily Scott's vocals rise like bubbles bursting into a rocking jazz wail, as if Billie Holiday decided to resurrect and front a Neil Young-inspired indie act. The drums pulse with earthy distinction, and song structures on guitar, lap steel, and piano range from classical composition to jazz to intricately woven 60s and 70s psychedelic progressions. That is actually a great description of your guys' band. So right now, who we have in the studio is Vaughn McPherson. He plays the keys for Varlet, and then Cole Rudy, who does guitar, lap steel, and I love this instrument, the mandolin. That's just so awesome that you guys are playing that. How are you guys doing today?
Good, all right. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Do you think you can come read that just like that before every set
I'd love to. I'd love to.
Hey, it's being recorded, so just download it.
I will say that's a really poetic bit of writing, and it's nice. What I love is and I love that you put this down. But I actually did know this because a lot of people don't know this. I was a professional actor for a long time, so I'm a huge fan of Shakespeare. And Varlet is a Shakespearean word. Shakespeare actually used to create a lot of words. A lot of people don't know that. And what it means is a rogue, deceitful, and unreliable scoundrel. Great words, man. I love it. And there's definitely a poetic nature to the way you guys perform, and I love that.
Thank you.
And so it was one of the things, I discovered Demon Funkies at the Westwood Music Showcase, and you guys as well. And, one of the things we were talking about with Ryan was that, God, it was a hot as hell day that day.
So hot.
So hot. And you guys, you motored through it. I could see, just sweating bullets up on stage, but still putting your all in that. And that was one of the things that really impressed me is, I want to see a band up on the stage for our party, for the Cirque de Cannabis party, that is going to just leave it all out on the stage. We wanted that kind of performance, and that was one of the things that really attracted me to you guys.
Oh, right on, man.
Yeah.
It's not a job, it's a passion.
Exactly. It's a passion. Just like what we do. We're in a business in the medical marijuana industry, and but we're not doing this because it's easy. It's a passion. So I totally understand what you guys are saying on that. I really do say that this description of you guys really is spot on. It's, there's a very unique nature to the way you guys play and perform. And a very unique sound, the Billie Holiday sound thrown in there with a little bit of psychedelicness. It's absolutely there, and I wouldn't have been able to pin that on. One of the things I was saying to myself was almost like if Norah Jones had an alternative rock band. That was kind of a feel I had when I got it, but this is way better description than I would have ever come up with.
Norah Jones, alt-rock.
Yeah, so a couple questions for you. How did you guys come about? How did you guys become a band?
Well, should I? Okay.
Yeah, take it.
Well, Lily, her brother is the bass player in our band. That's David, and her and David and Will, our drummer, all have to be at work right now. So we wish they could have come. They all really wanted to be here. Yeah. But anywho, they've had Varlet since Lily was like 15 years old.
Oh, really?
Or something, and she's 23 now. So Varlet itself, like the name, she put out an EP under Varlet, I think, when she was 17. And there's her and her brother and this drummer from a long time ago, and then I got to know Lily maybe 4 years ago, and then I got in the band, and then I asked Vaughn, who I'd been friends with for maybe 5-6 years at that point, to be in the band, and then we got our drummer Will, who was old friends with me and Vaughn too, and that's been like the last 2.5 year configuration or so through this record and through the one that we're about to start, and several tours.
I started playing with Will probably about 7 or 8 years ago, and then we kind of went our ways. Well, after our last band had a 2-year break, and so it was a real nice reunion between the two of us, and he was kind of like the last piece of the puzzle to fit in the band, and once he joined the band, like that's when we found our sound.
Cool. And it's a really cool sound. And I have to mention this, and I don't want to dwell on this. I'm sure you guys are probably tired of hearing this. Lily Scott was a contestant on the American Idol.
She sure was.
And you know what's funny about that is I don't watch the American Idol a lot, but my girlfriend got me into it for a couple of seasons, and it happened to be one of the seasons, the season that Lily was in. I don't know which season it was, but she really was a standout because she was unlike every other contestant. And I was actually, and I don't get attached to these kind of shows at all, but I was kind of sad when she was, no longer in the competition because she was so unique, and it just felt like every other person in there was like, oh, okay, this is the same as it was the season before. And she knew what her style was, she knew what her sound was, and that was one of the things that really impressed me the most about her was the uniqueness. And it was funny because I didn't realize until after the fact when I saw you guys, and then it was mentioned to me by Sam, who's dealing with all of our bands and booking you guys, and she's like,
Props out Samantha Hansen.
Yeah, Samantha Hansen's awesome.
Much love.
And and it was communicated to me. I was like, oh crap, that's how I recognize her. And it was what I loved is it was like she didn't go that route that a lot of those American Idol contestants went. She went back to her roots and went back to what she was passionate about. And that speaks a lot about you guys as a band as well. That she came back to you guys, and it kind of excites me about that. And again, it's whatever. I'm sure you guys might be tired of hearing about that part of it and everything. But
sure.
It does say a lot about who she is as an artist too, to stay with you guys.
The first thing she said, Vaughn, if I'm not mistaken, when she got back was, now it's my job to convert all these American Idol fans into Varlet fans.
Yeah, absolutely.
She was very adamant about getting away from the American Idol title and away from. For a long time, every show that we played at was Varlet featuring Lily Scott or Lily Scott featuring Varlet, and she wanted to get as far away from that as possible and just become the entity as Varlet.
Wow.
So how did Varlet come about as far as the name goes?
I guess that's a question for Lily.
That was all Lily in high school.
Was it?
Yeah. She said that name forever.
Read a Shakespearean play and was like, I love it.
I think so. Yeah. Something.
What would you say like your musical influences are? I mean, if you had to pick a few different bands that you felt like you kind of created an amalgam of, what would you? Are there easy ones for you to pick out?
The easiest ones to pick out for me are bands like Black Keys, the Beatles, of course, are probably my biggest influence of any band of all time. I come from a classical background, as Cole comes from a jazz one, and it's hard to pinpoint exactly where my personal influences come from. Honestly, as cheesy as it sounds, a lot of my influences comes from video games I used to play, as a kid, like every once in a while practice, I'll bust out Legend of Zelda, for people.
Great game.
That's funny.
Great game.
That's funny.
And you really can't get away from, the things that the influences that you grow up with, and that kind of stuck with me. So, I mean, there still is some of that, influence relevant in my playing these days. But, I try not to really pinpoint any specific style. I kind of bring in everything I can.
Sure.
You want to continue?
With our band, it's interesting because, in a lot of bands I've been in the past, there's been, maybe one or two primary songwriters, and I've been in, so many bands. So has Vaughn. I think you'd say the same probably. Most bands tend to have one or two people kind of writing all the material, and with this band, literally all 5 people are contributing song ideas, or if not entire songs, bringing those to practice that they've already handwritten for the band. And so we've been a group long enough now to where it's cool. We get this everybody kind of knows what the band wants and needs at this point, and so it's great. The process has been extremely bountiful as of late. We've just been writing just ideas, and it's been flowing really nicely.
Right.
So,
now, is it a very organic process for you guys?
It is.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, as far as oh crap moments, while you guys are on stage and things like that, what's the one that stands out? Like maybe the funniest thing that ever happened on there, where only you guys knew exactly what was going on.
Do you want to hear? Oh, where only we knew, or where it was just like a terrible moment in Varlet history?
Yeah, both sounds good.
I don't know, man. Well, there's some that we might not repeat.
There's a few I'd rather not repeat. If you guys don't mind.
No. That's quite all right. Yeah, that's cool.
But the funniest thing we knew, I mean, oh man, I don't know. I think after you've been in a band, you've played so many gigs. I mean, you know, things happen in bands, and then the name of the game is like learning how to get everybody back on the same train as quickly as possible. You know, I don't know. We just played the Sunnyside Music Festival, and we played in like the middle of the day. It was like 4:00 in the afternoon. The sun was beating down on the stage, and I couldn't see all the LEDs on my guitar effects pedals. So like I had no idea like if like my delay or my compressor was on, or you know, and so I'd go to like do something and get this like you know, like just part of the show, folks. Just, you know,
that's what we have gotten pretty good at is, you know, we did have some showstoppers when we first started playing together, and now we've gotten pretty good at being like, I meant to do that, I'm just out there.
Right,
that was a mistake.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just part of the performance, you know. And then there's those other times
buys
where
it too, which is great.
yeah, exactly. You know, so that's part of the love of doing it, though. You know, is like on stage, it's totally different. And you know, even when you watch bands that you've never seen before and they screw up, you know, it's hard to tell, because if they're a good band, then they all can lock right back in, and you know, it's almost just improvisation at that point. Right. So,
do you guys get nervous before performances, or how do you guys get warmed up for it?
Mostly alcohol.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. But we're not here to talk about alcohol.
No. Well, you know, hey, what a good segue right there, man. A nice segue, Cole. Well, that, you know, and that is a question. You know, I mean, obviously you guys are comfortable with medical cannabis because you're playing a Surf to Cannabis event.
I just renewed my license this morning.
Excellent.
Nice. Congratulations.
Right. And it's too bad you couldn't have been a judge for the championship. But
bad timing.
Are you guys all from Colorado originally, or?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess Lily and David were born in Texas. Well, I mean, we all grew up in Colorado.
We've all been in Colorado since high school.
How are your feelings about how you've seen things change and grow, no pun intended, for the medical cannabis industry here in Colorado?
I think it's great. You know, how long has everyone been talking about how you know, the war on this particular drug is just it's hard for me to come up with a
asinine?
Proper adjective. Asinine, sure. Let's use asinine. And you know, now that we're actually, you know, we created a huge industry, you know, in here, and we put jobs out there. We're taxing it for the benefit of the state, and you know, more power to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, and you guys are aware of Amendment 64 that's up for election. We're going to go to a break in just a couple minutes, but when we come back, we're actually going to talk about Amendment 64. We're going to talk about the arguments for it. We're going to talk about the arguments against it and how to combat the arguments against Amendment 64 for all of our listeners out there, so they can help stimulate the conversation out there before we get to election in November. We're also going to bring up some topics about Oregon's Measure 80, which is Oregon's basically there for all intents and purposes, their Amendment 64, where they want to regulate it like alcohol and also increase production of agricultural hemp, or actually start production of agricultural hemp. And then we have some other national news as well that Jason and I are going to get into. So why don't we go ahead and take the break now? I think it's a good time. And then when we come back, we'll talk about all these things, and you guys pipe in ever you want. This is a conversation here at Hemp Connoisseur Radio, so we'd love to hear your feedback on this, and I'm sure the listeners would too. So while we take this break, we're going to be listening to another song by Varlet, Dirty Sock, I believe. So here we go.
So your mama
All right. Welcome back to the Hemp Connoisseur Radio. Again, sitting in with Varlet. We are going to be opening up a discussion on Amendment 64, both the pros and the cons. And depending on what part of this industry you're in, you probably definitely have some sort of take on it. But we are going to go with some of the best arguments that are going with 64 right now is through Nexus Meds, which most of you already out there know is a sister company for Suit Media Group, which owns both Nexus Meds and the Hemp Connoisseur. Is we were down in Pueblo meeting with some customers yesterday, and we in this industry we feel more and more that people are for 64.
Yeah, most of them are. Yeah.
And the reason being is because basically Colorado, well, not just Colorado, but Oregon and Washington also that are that have legalization on the ballot, basically have a message to send to the rest of the country is that this is what the people want in this industry. And please, Mr. and Mrs. Federal Government, please do not don't turn your back to what the people want in this thing. Okay, and one of the this center down in Colorado Springs said. We are going to vote no on 64.
Why did they say that? Because I've heard a lot of arguments why some dispensaries out there want to vote no on 64. What were they saying?
Well, first of all, sitting in the center, they truly are. This truly was a medical center, and most centers out there are going to say, yes, this is medical marijuana. So yes, we're doing this on the medical side of it. However, some centers we go into, you can kind of tell the people that are doing recreationally and the people that truly need it. This person actually came in is probably a 90-year-old lady with her 90-year-old brother, 91-year-old brother, and truly that she was using it for whatever her ailment was.
Right.
And these people are like, well, this is why we're doing it. We want to keep it medical because these are the people that need it. Why wake a sleeping giant?
Well, I do understand that, but I think the nice thing about 64 and 80 from Oregon, which we're going to talk about in a minute actually after this, is you can say why wake a sleeping giant, but I think part of it is like, you know what, we're at the point where we want to force the hand of the federal government. I mean, the tides have turned. I mean, we reported last week and the week before, there are juries out there that are refusing to find people guilty for possession, even though there's no reasonable doubt that they haven't had possession of it, because they're just saying this is ridiculous. We're not going to send this person to jail. They're a productive member of society. This is not going to help anybody in society by having taxpayer dollars pay for them to be in prison. So juries are revolting against this, whether it's legal or not in some states.
Okay, but that's a whole different. That's definitely in the same conversation, but a different argument behind it. But what we're going back through in Colorado with Amendment 64 is, look, everybody knows this is federally illegal. It is what it is. We live with it every single day. It's told to us about 10 times a day. However, full legalization of this product there's pros and cons to it, obviously.
Well, I can think of one con to it personally and it's literally the only argument I would have against the full legalization, and it's not enough for me to be swayed to be one of those no on 64 people, and that's that marijuana is a medicine. I mean, we've seen the proof of it on a daily basis. Anybody who's lived here in Colorado, whether they have a red card or not, probably knows somebody who is benefiting from having a prescription for cannabis. I mean, would you guys agree on that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, and the one thing that gives me a little bit of reticence when it comes to passing it recreationally just now, and I'm still saying this is the right time for it, but I don't want people to wash over the medical usages that marijuana can provide for people and the treatments that it can provide. And if we go straight to recreation, a part of me is worried about that fact that all of a sudden they'll be like, oh, whatever, it's just like alcohol, anybody can smoke and go party. So that's where I have a little bit of reservation about it, but it's not enough for me to not be completely for legislation, because I do believe that recreationally it's safer than alcohol and tobacco and all the, and
study after study has come back and said that yes, it is safer than alcohol.
What if you just had the choice? I mean, it's like that guy that gets off work and goes and buys a 6-pack and a pint of booze and then, does whatever terrible thing to his family that night.
Right.
What if he had the choice just to go down to the, shop next door to the liquor store and, pick up a 1/4 ounce of weed and go home and smoke a little bit, hug his children, and go to sleep. You know, like,
well, and yeah, exactly.
I mean, not that it's all puppies and flowers like that, and always, but isn't that the main argument? Like,
but it is. It's one of the main arguments,
like,
Cole. It's a really good point.
Alcohol destroys lives.
When you talk to
don't bring my personal life into this.
But no, there is a benefit when you talk to, I've talked to many Denver policemen and women, and one of the common things they say is, well, I've never had to deal with a domestic violence call that was related to marijuana. Now, it's almost always related to alcohol. Now, you can say, well, maybe they were doing alcohol and having cannabis as well. And, of course, the people who are against marijuana, the decriminalization of marijuana was, he was also high. It's like, no. He was drunk. Or she was drunk, but he was drunk, and happened to also be smoking marijuana.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't recommend taking painkillers and drinking.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
But that again, and that's not. I mean, that's not one of the things that's in 64 is the combination of alcohol.
No, there is
and
not.
marijuana.
No, absolutely.
So real quick, going back on some of the arguments in it is like law enforcement. Resources should be used to protect violent crimes. Mm-hmm. I don't know any violent crimes that are that are attributed to smoking marijuana, and that's coming from the Colorado Center of Law Enforcement and Policy. They could save $12 million a year by not going after marijuana offenses.
And that's a savings.
Yeah,
that doesn't
doesn't
even count how much revenue is coming in if it's legalized.
No, I mean, if you're going off of revenue that's going to be coming in, Amendment 64 will result in $32 million in new revenue for the state. According to this document that we're holding right now, $14 million is going to go to local government and 24 will go to school. I think that's actually a little bit different because I think $40 million is going to be going to school. But I'm quoting off of the document that I'm holding in my hand right now.
And that's a briefing that was passed to give us the pros for Amendment 64 and how to combat them. But what's interesting is, and I'm not sure if that number statistic is in there, but when you talk about the $12 million that we're spending on stopping legislation, then we're adding that onto the other revenue because now it's money not spent, that's money earned, Right. So now you are talking over $40 million in revenue.
Yeah, I mean, if this state truly wanted to save money, there's so many places that they could do. A little bit off subject is that they're looking to cut law enforcement over at DIA, which is going to save them $600,000 a year. Okay, and that was just on the radio this morning. So there's a lot of places that government can go ahead and save money, whether it be not prosecuting misdemeanor crimes with marijuana possession, which all of you out there that don't have your cards, if you do get caught with marijuana, it's a petty offense.
It is a petty offense.
Just to let you know.
Well,
so it's going to be a fine, depending on weight.
Depending on how much you have.
Let's be very clear on that right there. So as far as, so those are some numbers on 64. And if anybody out there is... well, we hope people are listening to the show. Wants to IM us through iCannabis Radio. I mean, definitely do that. We'd be happy to answer some questions, or if you have some facts of your own you'd like to bring up, whether it be pros or cons, we're definitely here for to have that debate.
Right. Well, so since we talked a little bit about Amendment 64, and we did say that we're going to talk about other state legislation, what we wanted to focus on today was Oregon. Oregon's has Measure 80 going on, and we call it an Amendment 64. It's not an amendment until it's passed. It's actually Measure 64. Right. So the same thing with Oregon. They're talking about it being an amendment to their constitution. Sure. So I have a briefing on the Oregon Measure 80 as provided by vote80.org. So you guys can check out that website if you're interested in it. But one of the things they do say is, Oregon Measures 80 regulate cannabis like liquor. Wow, that sounds familiar.
And that's a good idea.
Yeah. And restore agricultural hemp. And as you know, we at the Hemp Connoisseur love hearing that. So just to give you a quick, it's funny, you're going to see a lot of parallels here, compared to what Jason was just talking about Amendment 64. When they talk about the briefing on Oregon Measure, one of the first goals of passing this legislation to regulate cannabis like alcohol in Colorado, but now we're speaking about Oregon, is to protect Oregon's children by ensuring that, like liquor, cannabis is only sold to adults. They want to regulate the growth and sale of cannabis and dramatically shrink the black market. And, that's so important. It's the same exact argument for 64. It will shrink the black market and stop putting money into violent drug cartels.
So they're not going to sell to kids?
No. Hey, amazing. Well, as we've said before.
Nice. Great idea also.
As we said before, and I think it's actually listed in that 64 document, there's studies that have been shown, and one of the arguments for people against these kind of measures is, well, I'm really worried about getting this into the hands of my children. But there's a study in there that says that there was, from 2009 in Colorado to 2011, there has been a dramatic decrease in how many minors are getting their hands on marijuana.
There's also been a decrease in drunk driving.
There's been a 9% decrease in drunk driving. But, what it speaks to, and it's perfect to say 2009 in Colorado, because 2009 is when severe regulations started coming in as to how medical cannabis was being, as to how it was being regulated, basically. So once those regulations were put in, minor usage went down. So anytime any of you out there hear somebody, well, I'm worried about the children. Well, if you're worried about the children, then you want it to be legalized and regulated, because then the black market is not selling to the children.
If I remember correctly, in high school, I think it was much easier for me to get a bag of weed than it was to get a six-pack.
Absolutely. It was much easier to get a bag of weed and a six-pack. And it has been, and minor usage, and we've mentioned this before, and you know what, I'm going to mention this till I'm blue in the face. Minor usage of marijuana across the country has gone up, except in every single state that has legalized it for its medical usage. In every state that has legalized it for medical usage, it has gone down. So that argument holds absolutely no water. In fact, you have the actual study on there, Jason. If you could pull that up, I think it's near the bottom of the page. And once he pulls it up, he'll share it with you guys so you guys can check out the actual study. And anytime you have somebody who's arguing against it, you can be like, here it is. Check this out. And that's the thing. And that's one of the biggest things for us in this industry is we actually have facts to back our argument. And everybody else has emotion.
Well, sadly, facts don't seem to motivate our government as effectively as they should these days.
Well, as one of our political candidates for president, their campaign said, we are not going to let fact checkers dictate our campaign. That's absolutely
right.
true.
And actually, the University of Colorado did a study that, and it provides no evidence that legalization led to increase in the use of marijuana at schools at all. I mean, the likelihood of being offered drugs on school property or any other substance. And you can get that onto ucdenver.edu. Probably do a search on there for marijuana. I bet it'll pull up a few things. Also, there was a recent study done by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention found use by Colorado high schoolers dropped in 2011 compared to 2009. So, and I'm sure you can go back through and find that every year that as this progresses with legislation, you're going to find probably the decrease in use from minors. So
yep. Now, before I go to the break, I do want to finish talking a little bit about Oregon. Yep. Again, one of the things I love about Oregon's Measure 80, just like I love about Measure 64 here in Colorado, is the argument for hemp. And, one of the things they say here in this briefing is hemp offers an alternative green fuel source, and its fibers can be used for food, clothing, and more. Now, obviously, we all know that. It's going to generate tax revenue for the state and eliminate millions of dollars spent on corrections costs. Both of these measures in Colorado and in Oregon are going to create jobs, both through the cannabis, I should say the medical cannabis, and the hemp industries. The Oregon Cannabis Tax Act of 2012 is a citizens' initiative campaign, just like 64. It's the citizens who signed this petition to push this through. And it is to regulate and restore industrial hemp. And the goal is to protect Oregon's children, increase public safety by creating a series of regulations around the growth and sale of cannabis and industrial hemp. And I love this, just as ending alcohol prohibition and regulating that market has protected society, and I can't imagine any historian arguing with the fact that alcohol prohibition, by ending that, did protect our society from, incredibly violent, organized crime. And the problem with it is it did give them a foothold. And because they had large networks created because of the alcohol consumption, it's very hard to get rid of all these organized crimes because they just found other avenues once alcohol was taken away from them. But it did put a big dent in their income. And that's what we're looking to do. I mean, if you really want to fight the war on drugs, keep it from being illegal, because then you're taking away the dollars that are going to these illegal cartels. Just to go over, we're going to go on a break in just a second, but currently the state of Oregon spends $61.5 million in law enforcement, corrections, and judicial costs just on the enforcement of cannabis-related incidents. That's more than we spend in Colorado. That's amazing. $61.5 million are being spent on cannabis-related incidents.
Which here in a moment after the break, we're going to come back, and there's a major city in the United States that has just instructed their officers to basically leave marijuana offenses alone.
I love this story. So we're going to go to a break in just a second. You're going to hear a little bit of more music from Varlet, and we'll be back in a couple minutes. All right. Once again, you've been listening to Varlet, and the name of that song was High Heels. Man, I love the sound you guys have. I really do. It's just got this great loungy. It's funny. Lily's name is perfect because it's got this lilting, just like dragged out, like really just, I don't know. It's just so, just puts you in a good place listening to the music. It really does. I know. And I just wanted to comment on that. So we were talking about a major city in the United States.
Yeah, a couple major things happened recently, actually. I don't know if any of you out there know who like Ron Paul or Barney Frank is.
I actually am very familiar with Barney Frank.
Yeah.
Just so anybody who doesn't know, Barney Frank, I'm from Massachusetts. I mentioned this before. Barney Frank is the senior senator in Massachusetts. He used to be the junior senator until Ted Kennedy passed away. But Barney Frank, actually the first openly gay senator, but always been very progressive in his thoughts, been a huge advocate for hemp and marijuana. So I'm sorry, just to give you the background of Barney Frank.
Hey, know what? They actually introduced a bill called HR 2306, definitely look it up, into Congress to go ahead and it's not for legalization of marijuana, although they won't openly come out and say that they support it. However, they are definitely big advocates for going ahead and at least changing the schedule of it.
Well, and for those of you who don't know, that's a huge impact. To be a Class 1 drug basically says that it has absolutely no medicinal benefits, and that is how marijuana is listed right now, as having no medicinal benefits. But by changing that class, now they are admitting that there are medicinal benefits to marijuana. That is a huge, huge step for the federal government to even come out and say.
Massive.
Well,
Massive.
Marijuana use and distribution is prohibited under federal law because, according to federal law, it has potential for abuse and does not have an accepted medical use, according to the federal government. However, we do have a close friend, Sean, who wrote, she's an attorney here locally, and she wrote a paper on PTSD. And I'm telling you, she would go to battle with you hardcore, saying otherwise.
And you know what? We're going to have Sean on in a couple of weeks, hopefully, to talk about what she's doing in the October 11th show for PTSD. But, one thing I will say, and we had this in our last issue of the Hemp Connoisseur, whether the federal government wants to admit it or not, they have admitted that there are medicinal usages. Now, I cannot remember the number off the top of my head. I really should memorize this. But there's a patent like 6577701 or something. It's like 1,000 numbers after
that ends with 420, right?
Yeah, right. But there is a patent that was written in, I believe, 1995 or 98. Those are the numbers ringing to me, and I'll have to look it up and give you that information next week. But that basically says that marijuana does have medicinal effects as for neurotransmitters and for neurological disorders. So our federal government has already admitted it by putting out its own patent for medicinal usage of marijuana. And yet, at the same time, there's a hypocrisy going on because they're still saying that it's still a Class 1, so there's no medicinal usage of it. So they're at odds with themselves, whether they want to admit it or not. So, I'm sorry, let's hear about this city in New York. I just said the city.
He just said it.
I just gave it away. Like a city in New York, yeah.
All right. So, Police Commissioner Ray Kelly has issued an internal order to New York City Police Department commanding officers to stop arresting people for small amounts of marijuana possession.
What does he call small amounts of marijuana?
Up to 25 grams.
So we're saying basically an ounce.
Almost. Yeah, almost an ounce.
Yeah.
In New York, possession of small amounts is only a criminal offense if it is displayed in public. All right? So don't display it in public. All right? Kelly's order reminds officers that if marijuana comes into public view at the officer's discretion, they can do something about it. All right, either when an officer pulls the drug out of a person's clothing, or a person is ordered by an officer to empty his pockets. That's when it's not. They're not gonna. It's just going to be a violation, and they'll just write a ticket for it. So it's more than 85% of those arrests that are arrested in New York City, just so you know, are blacks and Latinos in the poorest neighborhoods where the highest rates. Stop and frisks occur.
Well, and that is one of the arguments that we did not go over on Amendment 64 is decriminalization. While decriminalization is a good thing, and it is a first step towards full legalization, it still leaves up to bias of the law enforcement officials as to whether they're going to charge you with any kind of fence, fine, or anything like that. And what has been found with decriminalization is there is a racial bias as to who does still get charged. Sure. And so by eliminating the decriminalization and going to full legalization, you are eliminating that bias. And this is a really good step within the decriminalization of marijuana in New York to get to that point of not being biased and just saying, oh, well, you have less than this amount, we're not even going to bother you with it. You know?
Well, national studies show that more young white people smoke marijuana than blacks or Latinos.
But so more blacks and Latinos are arrested for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, it's a stop and frisk occurs. So although you can hop on a plane in Denver with your medicine and maybe fly to New York, it's probably not recommended because TSA is a federal.
Well, they're a private company that's federally hired.
Yes,
so we don't recommend. Right. We've heard stories that if you're legal in California and you travel to Colorado, they will allow you to bring your medical marijuana. I would never advise that to anybody. Yeah. I mean, so
ship your stuff.
I definitely. I don't know if I'd say that either, but hey, we're not advising anybody to break federal law.
Right, edit that part out.
Yeah, we can't edit it. It's too late. But. I'll say this. I lived in New York in 95, right out of college, so I just dated myself. My roommate in New York, who was a good college buddy, we're still friends, great guy, was a brazen marijuana smoker. I mean, he was the first person who taught me that people can be functional potheads. Because he'd go to sleep with a bong, he'd wake up with a bong. But one of the things that was really amazing to me, because I didn't actually try cannabis until I was in college, is that he would actually smoke a J walking down the streets of New York. We lived in the Upper West Side, it was a nice area in New York, and one time he literally walked right by a cop. I'm of course nervous as hell. I'm like, what are you doing? This is unbelievable. I can't believe you actually. And I'm just sitting there like quiet and I'm starting to walk away from him. I'm like, I don't know this guy. and it's funny though, because I'm watching the cop and all the cops did was look up and they sniffed and like, oh, I smell pot. And then they went back to what they were doing. And what I realized, when you come to big cities, where there's actual real crime going on,
cops have something to actually do.
They have something to actually do, and they don't want to be. You know what it looks like to them? Paperwork.
Yep.
They're like, oh, dude, I'm not going to sit here and spend the time writing a report for arresting some dude who's smoking a joint. And I find the same thing. Like I said, when I was talking to Denver police, and they were like, man, I don't even want to mess with it. It doesn't bother me. It seems silly to me. I mean, I got to do my job. I got to enforce the law. And a lot of them are looking forward. I'm sure they won't say this out in public, but they are looking forward to 64 being passed because they don't like the gray area we're in with medical marijuana. They don't know what to do. I mean, they're like, well, you have a license, you have this much on you. I don't even want to mess with it because I can be responsible for getting you your medicine back if I confiscate it. And they don't even like this gray area at all.
Well, and there is that organization out there called LEAP, which is Law Enforcement Against Prohibition.
Yep.
And I'm telling you,
those
there's judges
awesome.
and ex-police officers on there that are for this, and they educate other officers and things like that. So,
and I think they're one of the most valuable resources for an argument because they're out there in the trenches and they're just like, look, man, this is not a big deal. Can we just let this go so I can focus on actually protecting society?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's what happens when you talk to the really good cops out there. Of course, there's good people and bad people. There's good cops, there's bad cops. But for the most part, most people are good and most cops are good as well. And they really do. They want to focus on the things that really matter, that makes them feel good about their job. Like if you ask a cop, hey, man, I just arrested a pothead or somebody's smoking a joint on a corner, do you really feel like you just made our society safer? And I guarantee you they're going to be like, well, no, probably not.
You just he needs to go to Taco Bell. Straight up. Get some bean burritos or something.
He needs to go to Taco Bell. Wow, man.
Is there anything else on that? Or?
Well, there's nothing else on that. You know what? We have to go to break, man. 15 minutes flies way too fast for us here. We got one more break. We're going to be playing a song from Varlet again called Dirty Socks, I believe. No?
In My Pocket.
I'm sorry. That was another one we played. In My Pocket. And then we're going to come back. We didn't do it last week. I promise you we're going to do it this week. We're going to do another hemp comparison. We're going to compare hemp versus cotton. You are going to love this argument, man. All right, so we'll see you back in a few. All right, you guys have just been listening to In My Pocket from Varlet, and we do have a couple of members of the band. For any of you who are just jumping in late, we have Vaughn McPherson, who plays on the keys, and Cole Rudy, who plays guitar, lap steel, and mandolin. You know what? Before I get into it, how did the mandolin come about? I got the
mandolin. My dad bought one, and he didn't have time to play it, and I picked it up, and he was like, "Why don't you take that home with you?" And just kind of ended up in the band, man.
Very cool.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's cool. It's kind of funny to see us, rock live with Cole playing this itty bitty. Yeah, for you guys on the radio can't see us. Cole's about what, like 7'5".
Right.
And meanwhile, I'm probably about 2/3 of his size, and I've got this gigantic piano rig, around the place. It's just kind of
fortress of
Can we trade?
Well, that'll put a smile. Just that alone will put a smile on your face. So,
I like I said, I'm sorry. We promised last week because we didn't talk about hemp versus another product, and we have to talk about hemp versus cotton. And this is actually one of my favorite arguments for hemp.
Can I throw out a warning real quick, Dave?
Please.
Okay. After this comparison, you're not going to want to wear cotton anymore.
You're really not. I mean, we do. I mean, look, I can't replace my entire wardrobe with hemp because I'm not a multimillionaire yet. And most of my clothes are really old and raggedy and made from cotton.
Hemp lasts a lot longer.
Right? Exactly. Hemp does last a lot longer. I want to talk about cotton first, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the benefits of hemp. First of all, and a lot of this information is obviously available. If you just do hemp versus cotton on the internet, you can find quite a few great resources for this. But look, when it comes to agriculture, the king of pesticide usage is cotton. All right, the cotton plant is, first of all, very susceptible to pests and therefore requires heavy pesticide spraying and treatment. So, like a perfect example, in 1995, seems to keep popping up today for some reason. In 1995, U.S. farmers applied nearly a third of a pound of chemical fertilizers and pesticides for every pound of cotton. That's an absolutely insane statistic to me.
A third of a pound per pound?
A third of a pound per pound. That's ridiculous. First of all, some of the chemicals used in cotton agriculture are among the most toxic as classified by the EPA. You know, much of the groundwater that's tested in agricultural regions around the world has been contaminated by runoff from pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers. So currently, right now, in the United States alone, there are 15,000 lakes that are so contaminated that nothing can live in them. And then, of course, in developing countries, pesticide and fertilizer regulations are a lot less stringent than we have in the U.S., and the environmental damage is even more severe. But let's put this in perspective. In the United States, 50% of all pesticides in the United States are used on cotton, and yet cotton uses only 1% of the farmland. I mean, crazy to me. And then if you want to look at it another way, if we want to talk internationally, cotton is grown on 3% of the Earth's best arable land because it needs the best possible land to grow cotton because it's a very difficult crop to grow. And out of 3% of the Earth's best arable land, cotton uses 26% of the world's pesticides.
Well, you know, other countries are growing it a little bit more healthy than we are, aren't they?
I mean, I guess they are. But, I mean, even still, no matter what, we're talking about a lot of chemicals coming out there. You know, cotton, as another drawback, is always thirsty. It demands really heavy irrigation that drains the land of its natural water supply. Cotton exhausts the soil, which forces farmers to rely heavily on chemical fertilizers because not be creating that good organic soil to grow it because cotton is sucking up so much of the nutrients just to be created. You know, so let's talk about a little bit of the hemp. You know, I mean, you know, when you consider everything I've just said, mass production of cotton does not seem like a very good choice as a primary agricultural product for the United States.
However, most of us wear it, don't we?
Yeah, we do. And it seems absolutely insane when you actually consider all the benefits that hemp can have as an agricultural product. So let's talk about some of the benefits of hemp as an agricultural product.
And one of them, going back to a segment we had on Stickman's Radio, on iCannabis Radio, which is the name? What's the name of the show?
Overgrow the Radio.
Overgrow the Radio. Is that we had told them about farmers that can actually grow hemp on the outside of their corn in order to protect any of the water that ran off between the corn, between the rows of corn. So I'd imagine that if you grew it on the outside of those 15,000 lakes, you might be able to clean that water a little bit.
A great word. We've mentioned it before. We're going to mention it, phytoremediation.
Phytoremediation.
Hemp has the ability to do what's called phytoremediation. For those of you guys who don't know what that means is it actually soaks up contaminants in the soil. We're using it right now with 1019, House Bill 1019 in Colorado to clean up rocky flats. That study is starting to go underway where it's radiated soil from dumping back in the day, and that soil is completely useless. We're going to be growing hemp there to soak it up. I mean, this is something that's been proven in Hiroshima. It's been proven in Chernobyl to utilize to help clean out the radiation from the soil. The hemp soaks it up like a sponge and gets it out of our soil, so that soil actually has usage again.
That bill was written by Jason Love, right?
That bill was it was definitely authored by Jason Love, one of our great fans.
And signed into law by Governor Hickenlooper, correct?
Yes, it was.
Which, just so you know, does not support medical marijuana.
Yeah, it's true. So going back to what we said, hemp is actually good for the soil, unlike cotton. Cotton destroys the soil, hemp restores it. Hemp's long roots penetrate up to 6 feet deep, which breaks the soil, aerates it, and leaves it in perfect condition for the next year's crop. Amazing to have a plant that actually does all of that work for you.
So any of you farmers out there, that strip cropping that's going on right now, you can alternate hemp between your corn crops. That almost would generate another income.
It actually would definitely generate another income. You know, and after harvest, that same rootstock can be mulched into the soil, returning all of the nutrients that are soaked back into the soil. So in addition to this root system, hemp is an ideal riverbed crop. You were already mentioning this, actually. It prevents soil erosion and mudslides, but it also helps soak up any pesticides that can actually go into the rivers. So by just growing hemp along all of our rivers, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the more you hear about it, whether you knew about this stuff or not, the more you hear about it, you're like, are you effing kidding me? You know?
Makes sense.
I mean,
I agree with that.
it's really like, why is this not being utilized on a mass scale in the United States?
Absolutely.
You know, it's so going back to the whole hemp versus cotton thing. Let's talk about some things about when the end product. You know, we're talking a little bit about the beginning product, and really, I could do an entire show just on this subject, guys. But let's just talk quick about the end product. You know, hemp is 4 times softer than cotton. A lot of people didn't know that. Because everyone imagines hemp as a burlap feeling thing because they think of hemp as rope and back in the day. One of the things about hemp that's amazing, and we know personally from our experience with hemp shirts and testing them out, is that through every washing, that hemp gets softer and softer, but it doesn't wear out. It actually maintains its color and its dyes for a longer period of time. Hemp is 3 to 8 times stronger than cotton, depending on the weave and the fiber length. So at the minimum, it's 3 times stronger than cotton, but it can be up to 8 times stronger than cotton. It doesn't shrink. Now, most shirts right now are hemp cotton blends, if you do get a hemp shirt. In fact, the ones that we produce are hemp and cotton. They're 55%, 45% organic cotton, so they're not using any pesticides. We do try to keep that. But the hemp itself keeps that cotton from shrinking and changing shape.
And you may not be able to tell, but I'm wearing a hemp
He's
shirt
wearing
right
a
now.
hemp shirt right now. We can get that camera on the hemp shirt.
And
very
the
nice.
logo.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Hard to probably read right now at the moment,
No,
but
I think it looks pretty good on
yeah.
there.
So obviously hemp is much more durable than cotton. It's going to last longer. So while hemp right now in the United States is more expensive because we don't grow it here, you're actually getting your money's worth because it's going to last a lot longer. Hemp is flame retardant. That's actually a new one. I wasn't completely aware of that on the t-shirts. Hemp is a flame retardant. Wow. Hemp is not affected by UV rays like cotton, hence the fading of color. It doesn't happen when you're affected by UV rays. Hemp is also very breathable and moisture absorbent. It's antimicrobial. That's one of the things I love about it. Is you can wear a hemp shirt, you can sweat your butt off while you're hiking out in the mountains, and it's not going to maintain any of that BO smell that a lot of cotton shirts will. That's crazy, right? I mean, you guys are already thinking, like, I got to start wearing hemp on the stage.
I sure wish Dave wore some hemp today. That would have been great.
But yeah, it's moisture absorbent, it's breathable, it's perfect for any type of outdoor activity. You want to be out, you're gardening, you're doing some landscaping, you're hiking, you're on stage. It's a much better product to wear because, it's going to breathe for you. It's actually going to keep you cooler. It wears 2 to 3 times longer than any other fabric out there in existence. It breathes your skin, so it's not just one of the most comfortable fibers to wear, but it's the most comfortable fiber to wear in all seasons.
It'd be great for the ski industry.
It would be. And look, I'm not knocking cotton fully. I know I kind of been really picking on cotton. Oh, that's...
there you go.
I didn't even mean that. I know I've been picking on cotton. There is a movement going on for sustainable cotton and to utilize, organic cotton. Like we said, our shirts have 55% organic hemp and then 45% organic cotton. There is a movement going towards it, but it is much more expensive to produce. It's much harder to yield, whereas hemp is naturally organic, naturally pesticide and chemical free. There's actually absolutely no need to ever use pesticides when it comes to growing hemp because it's already resistant to all those things. So for those of you out there, buy hemp, start replacing your cotton clothing with hemp. You're going to notice a huge difference. I guarantee you'll start going, I wish every single one of my clothes were made out of hemp. In fact, just on a final note, because we do have to end the show in a second, the original Levi's, were made from hemp.
Nice.
And a lot of people don't realize that. It's very hard right now to prove that from what I read, but it is thought that the initial Levi's, which everybody wears jeans nowadays, were made from hemp because it was so much stronger for these guys, much easier and cheaper to produce at the time, because of course we were mass producing hemp back in the day. So, as always, any questions you guys have, please feel free to write into iCannabis Radio. Always send comments. We'll get back to you if we hear anything from you. Or you can send us an email on info@thcmag.com. That's info@thcmag.com. If you guys write into us, we'll be happy to answer any of your questions in the next show. Before we end, I'd like to definitely thank Vaughn McPherson and Cole Rudy from Varlet for coming in today. We really appreciate you guys. I'm so excited for the next show on Friday, October 5th with Cirque de Cannabis. Make sure you guys get there to come check them out.
Friday, October 5th is going to rock, man. We're looking forward to it. My other band, Dragon Deer, is going to be playing well with the guys from the Swayback. And you can see both Varlet and Dragon Deer. You can check out our stuff on Bandcamp. That's varlet.bandcamp.com and Dragon Deer, like the animal, .bandcamp.com. And we're both on Facebook too. So
iTunes as well.
iTunes, the whole deal. We're huge.
Also, just to let you know, there is limited space available, and you can get your tickets through Castlemans.com.
Yep, that's CASSELMANS.com.
Or pay at the door.
You can pay at the door. It's $15 at the door. We actually charge $10 for pre-order tickets, but they do charge one of those fun little $2.50 convenience charges. So it's $12.50 if you pre-order them. Look, it's not about the savings of $2.50. We expect long lines at our door. If you guys buy tickets ahead of time, you can bypass that line and get right in so you don't miss any of the awards announcements for the Hemp Connoisseur Championship. You don't miss 1 second of Varlet, Dragon Deer, Cobra Condor, or Demon Funkies, plus all the aerialists and the fire dancers. Dude, it's going to be ridiculous eye candy for everybody out there, guys. It's going to be so much fun. This is going to be a party that you will be talking about for quite some time.
And you can also be one of the first to have a high roller.
Oh, that's right. I can't believe I didn't mention that. Just so you know, we do have 2 official sponsors we're very excited about. Alaska Distillery is producing the first hemp-distilled vodka. It is called Purgatory.
Which was
called Purgatory.
It's called Purgatory, I know.
And that was released officially on April 19th, the
was.
day before the industry holiday.
It was.
Of this year.
Yep.
And the other sponsor that we have, we're very, very excited about also, is
the cannabis energy drink made from some folks in Holland. We're very excited about this. This cannabis energy drink tastes similar to Red Bull, actually tastes better. I did blind taste testing with some bartenders. They said, hands down, this cannabis energy drink tastes better than Red Bull, and it has hemp in it. So you're going to have a hemp energy drink and a hemp vodka. We mix those together.
Perfect.
You have the high roller.
High Roller.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us today on the Hemp Connoisseur Radio.
Thank you.
We are over time. Again, I want to thank these guys from Varlet. We're so excited about the Cirque de Cannabis party October 5th.
Yeah, thanks again, guys.
Guys, don't forget to listen to Stickman tonight on Overgrow the Radio. He's always got a great show coming up, and we got to promo our buddy over there. He always does a good job. So make sure you tune in to Overgrow the Radio with Stickman tonight. Thanks for joining us, and as always,
I'm Jason.
I'm David. Peace, love, and hempiness.